Hi guys, how's it going? I hope you've had a great week and I hope you're doing well. So first I want to say thanks a bunch for tuning in. This video is definitely going to be a long one and the longest one of all my videos, but I figured I would slow things down for you guys, but I don't want to take up too much time with the intro, so let's just get started. As you guys can see, the colors that I'm going to be using is just a few colors, and I've done this just to help narrow things down and make things easier for those who aren't really experienced with mixing colors. So I'm just going to see what colors I can get from just mixing different colors and lightening and darkening certain colors, and it's a great way to just practice. So I'm putting some blue into my palette, and I'm going to add about a pinch of black, I would say, and then I'm going to add some green, just maybe a dab, not a lot, and mixing these three colors is going to give me a deep turquoise color, which is one of my favorite colors. But I think the next time I do this theme, I am going to do a black background because I believe the black background will make those colors pop out more. But overall the results are nice and you guys are going to see how it turns out. So I've mixed these two colors together and now I'm just going to paint my canvas, and I needed about 3 to 4 coats, believe it or not, for this canvas, and I had to double up on the paint in my palette because I didn't have enough. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you happen to make a lot of mistakes, simply just make more of the background color, that way you have some paint to go to if you mess up. So this is the size that I'm going to be using for our center dot, and I had such a hard time with this because for some reason my paint is just, it's been acting up on me and it's too thick, so I had to work with the paint several times, and this was the second time for me working with it. And the surrounding dots are going to be slightly bigger than what I'm used to doing, and I decided to do this just because I haven't really done it. But having those guidelines definitely made the center dots a lot easier than I thought compared to doing smaller dots. Once I'm done with those dots, I'm then going to use my dotting tool and add some dots in the gaps available. And from the looks of it, these dotting tools don't have the sizes on them, but I did buy them from Amazon, so I'll double check there to see if they have the sizes there, and if they do, I'll list the sizes and everything else in the description below. So if you're interested, feel free to check that out. I really like these dotting tools, but it's kind of hard to get used to the fact that they have a round base compared to the drill bits that I have, which are flat, so it definitely takes some practicing to get used to them. For our next color, I'm going to start off with the green, and I'm going to add some blue to it just to help lighten it up. And another tip for you guys is if you're worried about how your colors are going to blend into each other or how they're going to look against each other, a simple trick is just to add a little bit of the other colors that you plan on incorporating into the new color, and that way all the colors will have they'll have the tone of the other paints, if that makes sense. So definitely keep that in mind and just experiment the next time you do a dot painting. So I'm using a medium-sized drill bit, and as you guys can see, this color is very vibrant, and I wanted that since the background color is going to be a little bit similar to some of the other colors that I'm going to be using for this painting. And I'm really trying my hardest to put the dots as close together as possible so that the whole canvas looks more full. And this is trickier than it looks. I have been curious to use a paintbrush because it seems like it would make this work easy, but I know you have to have a certain consistency for the paint to be able to work with a paintbrush, so that's something that I have to just ease my way into with time. Moving on, I am now going to use a smaller drill bit and just add some dots in the spaces that we have, and as you guys notice, I did use my smaller dotting tool and add some green below it. It was kind of hard to squeeze it in there, I'm not going to lie. Afterwards, I'm going to be using my pointy dotting tool, and I'm going to use it to walk the line around the dots that we just finished doing. While I do like this dotting tool, I do wish I had more sizes of it because I do like the effect that it gives. So as you guys can see, the first dot is the biggest, and as I continue down it gets smaller, and this is called walking the line, as I've heard other dot artists say. So that's something that will come in the future, is me investing in more instruments. So I'm going to lighten up the green that we've been using so far, and then because I wanted to kind of have a yellow tint to it, I'm going to add just a pinch of yellow to it. And my goal for this theme was to use mainly blues to kind of go with the sea theme, but I ended up using a lot of greens for some reason, and it made me think of seaweed. I don't know why, but oh, if you guys are wondering, I do use a lot of the same tools in this painting, and you guys are going to notice that some of the dots are bigger even though I'm using the same size dotting tool, and the reason why is because I add more paint to some tools, which creates a bigger dot if you add more paint to it, even though I'm using the same dotting tool. So this is something to consider, is if you'll get different results depending on how much paint is on there. Next, with my pointy dotting tool, I'm going to add some smaller dots into the corners where the green dots are, and this is just to help fill in any spaces along the way. Next, I'm going to add some blue paint to our green paint just so that it has a blue tint, and I'm then going to add some blue paint to our palette, and because I want the tones to match, I'm going to add a little bit of that green to the blue, and it's just perfect. Our next dotting tool size is going to be much bigger, and I'm going to use the blue that we just made and add dots right between each green dots. And I decided to use the bigger tool because I wanted this painting to stand out more. I'm very much used to using smaller dotting tools, and then probably about the second or to third last row of the painting, I will then use bigger dotting tools, but I wanted the colors to really stand out, so I figured using a bigger dotting tool would be just fine. So I want to take a mini break from giving instructions, and I just kind of want to share my thoughts on something that happened to me last week. And I'm not sure how much of the news you guys tune into, depending on where you're located, whether you're in the US or overseas, but this past week we experienced some very strong winds, about 20 miles per hour with gusts of 60 miles per hour, I believe, and that was very strong. And when this normally happens, well, it doesn't normally happen, but when we do experience strong winds, the power does go out, but only for a few hours. But for us here on the East Coast, our power went out for about 2 days. And that was kind of a big deal because we didn't really prepare for it the best. Our solar devices weren't charged. I didn't think to charge my phone, and we didn't think to stock up on wood because it is cold here still, and so it kind of put us in a funky situation where it made us realize how unprepared we are for when things like this happen, and how dependent we are when it comes to electricity and basically modern technology and luxuries. And it just kind of gave me perspective, and it made me think to myself, you know, when situations like this happen, most people would just simply brush it off. But for me, it made me realize, yes, I am very fortunate and happy to have what I have. But it's also made me aware of how very much dependent we are on today's technology. And in a way, it's kind of maddening because when situations like this happen, you get stuck. A lot of people in my neighborhood, you know, in my area, I believe, about 600,000 people were without power, and that's a huge deal. I don't know how we weren't able to prepare for something like this, but for this area, it's a huge deal. But a lot of people in my neighborhood were going to other people's homes that had power, that had electricity and warmth and whatnot, and my boyfriend and I and, you know, his mom, we just decided to stick it out in the house. We figured it would be a great experience just to see what it would be like to have no power, to only be able to use a fireplace to cook our food, to be very conservative with the technology that we have, and only to use it whenever, you know, if you needed to look up an update about the electricity or whatnot. So It was a great experience, but it was also eye-opening because a lot of people wouldn't put themselves in our position, you know. They would just go to a friend's house, you know, and the problem's fixed. But I think what helped my boyfriend and I get through these few days of no power, was the fact alone that we go camping when the weather is nice. We're able to put ourselves in situations where it's a matter of how much of ourselves we put into our comfort. We depend on ourselves for the warmth, the food, shelter, making sure that we're clean. Going camping is a great eye-opener because it makes you realize how capable you are, and it challenges you. And I think in today's society, not many human beings, not many people challenge themselves enough. Not many people put themselves in situations that requires them to use their survival instincts, because we're very modernized now. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that if there's ever a situation where you feel like you could learn something, take advantage of it. We human beings are so capable of learning so many things and trying different things, and the world is just in our hands. And it's important for us to take advantage of those resources. And I know I probably tell you guys all the time about taking advantage of resources, but I truly mean it. And my situation with the power outage just made me realize how fortunate I am, but it also made me realize how much I need to learn. I'm the kind of person where I don't like to depend on many things, and I've been slacking when it comes to absorbing knowledge. So my word of advice to you guys is to appreciate everything that you have, but don't take anything for granted. Alright, I'm sorry if that was deeper than you expected it to be, but I thought the message would be very helpful to you guys and give you some perspective and maybe something to even ponder on in your free time. But now we can continue with the tutorial. So if you guys have been following through, right here I am basically I've made some yellow-green paint and I'm adding it into the corners right here. And I kind of struggle with this part because I made some rays with the 2 green dots that are stacked up on top of each other, and this left a big gap for me to work with. And since I'm still very much a beginner when it comes to this kind of work, I struggle a lot with filling in spaces and making sure everything is compact. You guys can probably relate to it too. So what I actually did to help this out was I used Paint. The software Paint, it comes on most computers, but I used that software and I just kind of I mimicked the same design on Paint as it is on my canvas. And from there I just experimented with colors and where I could possibly put the dots, and this just kind of helped me plan along the way instead of having to put it onto the canvas and see that it doesn't look so great. So if you happen to have something like Paint program on your computer, or even just drawing it out with a couple of markers would be nice, or even crayons or whatnot, would be very helpful, and it's a great way to plan your designs out. So I finished walking the line around the light blue dots, which is basically the same color as the light blue paint, and afterwards I'm then going to change the first green dot, and I'm going to change it to the yellow green paint that I have here. And the reason why I did so is because I felt like the painting itself was just too dark and I had to make the transition of lightening it up, and I thought this would be a great way to do it. And I think what made it harder was the fact that the background color was almost the same color as some of the paints that I was using for the dots, so next time for sure I'm going to try with a black background. Now I'm going to lighten up that light blue paint with some white, and because I wanted to have the tone of the yellow, I decided to add some yellow to it and a pinch of more blue, and this made it a little bit brighter and whatnot. Next, I'm going to add a pinch of blue back to the green just so that it is more of a turquoise color. And since at this point I really needed it to stand out more, I decided that I would use my bigger drill bit and just add some dots using the yellow-green paint, and I would add it over the yellow dots that we just got finished doing. And this was the miracle of this whole canvas because it really did make it pop, and it saved it, to be honest, because I absolutely wasn't happy with how it was turning out. So sometimes it's really good to push yourself when you're doing a project and you see that it's not going in the direction that you want it to go. The best advice that I can give you guys is just to keep going and just see how it turns out. Have an open mind with things, understand that it's a process, and just, you never know, you may find something that you actually like. So next, I am then going to go back to that green that we just made, and I'm going to add it between the yellow paint, and I really like how this turned out, and I thought it was very much, it reminded me of pebbles, very like colorful pebbles on a beach that you would find, and it actually reminded, when I was in Greece, the pebbles in the water were very colorful, and looking at these colors here reminded me of the pebbles in the water. Alright, so this upcoming part is the part that I was talking about, where I was struggling, and I decided to go in with a medium-sized dotting tool and just add some white into the corners that we have here. And from there, I just decided that I would then go ahead and use a medium-sized drill bit and fill in the spaces with some blue paint mixed with some of the light blue paint that we have, just so that the tones match. At this point, I really didn't know what else to do as far as the design was concerned. I didn't know if I should add more dots or if I should just work on doing a corner border. So after doing all of this and completing an entire circle around with the dots, I then just decided that I would go into lightening up all the colors, and I would just see if by the time I was finished doing this, I could come up with another design to maybe add to this. So I'm just going to lighten up all the colors. I've added some white to the blue just to help make it all stand out more. And I think I'm going to time-lapse this part and give my voice a break because it's starting to crack. But I shall talk to you guys in a bit. And if you've managed to stay watching this video up until this point, you guys are awesome. I'm really happy that you find this video interesting, so thank you a bunch. Since we had a lot of yellow-green standing out, I decided that we needed something to balance that color out, so I decided to make some deep blue, which is basically me mixing some blue with a little bit of black into the current blue that we have. And I decided that I would walk the line around all the border circles that we have. And this really helped tone down the colors, so that's something to keep in mind, is if you have a certain color that really stands out, try to work with another color, or like a warmer color or a colder color, should I say, to help neutralize it. From there, I'm then going to work on the corners, and since we had a lot going on in the center, I didn't really want to use big drill bits for the corners, so I've decided that I would just use some smaller drill bits and keep the designs very simple because the main attraction is the center. Once that is done, I'm going to use a small drill bit and I'm going to add a dot on top of the blue dots that we just made, and I'm also going to add a dot on the sides, and I'm only going to make about 3 of them, and I'm going to do this for all of the corner dots that we have. And I'm going to be sticking with cooler colors just to still help balance out the yellow-green because it is still very vibrant. Once I'm done with the light blue dots, I'm then going to use my small pointy dotting tool, and I'm going to add some yellow dots right in the gaps that we have right here. And I'm also going to add a yellow dot on top. And I'm not going to use a lot of the yellow because we do have a lot of yellow going on already. And once that is done, I'm going to add in some white with the same tool, and I'm going to put a dot right in the very tip or right in the very corner of our canvas, just to still help balance out the white and kind of bring a little bit of those colors from the center outwards. And I'm going to do this with all of the corners. Once that is done, I'm then going to add some smaller white dots to the gaps between the light blue dots that we have. And when that is finished, I'm going to use the same tool and add a little bit more paint to the tip, and I'll add a white dot to the center of the light blue dots that we have just so that they stand out a little bit more, and I'll be doing this to all of the corners. Alright, so I think that's as much as I want to do as far as the designs go. Now it's time to add a coating of Mod Podge, which I've diluted, and it's important to do this because otherwise if it's too thick it's going to leave streak marks on your painting, which you absolutely do not want. And my rule of thumb is to add enough water until the Mod Podge starts to bubble up, and that's my way of knowing it's the right consistency. And from there, I'm going to just coat the entire painting and let it dry, and that's done. What do you guys think? If you guys were able to watch the entire video, you guys are champs. I'm so happy you all found it helpful. Also, if you want longer videos like this one, please let me know and I'll definitely make longer videos for you guys. This painting is for sale on my Etsy shop, so if you're interested, feel free to check that out in the description below. I hope you all have a great weekend, have fun, stay safe, and relax. And if you like this video, please be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe for more. I upload videos every Friday. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!